Just a reminder, today is our last show before the Thanksgiving break, but we'll be back in the full swing of things on Monday, December 2nd. For those of you who get our newsfeed email newsletter, we will also be going dark publishing that for the Turkey Day break. I hope you all have a full and thankful Thanksgiving. This episode of Marijuana Today Daily is brought to you by our new sponsor, Greenworks Consults, a company run by longtime listener to the show, Jason, who's an expert when it comes to helping businesses get better at doing business. Jason and his team over at Greenworks Consults are good at helping entrepreneurs tune up and dial in their business operations through better business management, workflow mapping and design, and process standardization. They're experts in Lean and Six Sigma and can work with you to make things run more smoothly and profitably. Learn more about how Greenworks Consults can help you keep more of your money in the bank at the end of each month over at greenworksconsults.com, with works spelled W-O-R-X. That's greenworksconsults.com. Good morning, Marijuana Nation. It's Tuesday, November 26th, 2019, and you're tuned into episode 848 of Marijuana Today Daily. I'm your host, Shay Gunther, and I'll be walking you through today's marijuana news and headlines. As always, we have a full and busy day of cannabis news in our hands, so let's jump right into it. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration grabs today's top story with a newly revised consumer update warning that CBD is not generally recognized as safe, an official designation in the world of federal food and drug safety. The FDA's stance on CBD recognizes that there are still questions to be answered about possible toxicity within the liver and that it can cause drowsiness, changes in mood, and even diarrhea, on top of possible negative interactions with other drugs. This is fairly big news because the perception among the general population, at least those who are aware of CBD, is that it is a mostly benign drug that, if anything, just increases your health and wellness. As with most real-world issues, though, the truth of the matter for CBD is a little more complicated than that. This is an important story. Our second headline is directly tied to our first, as yesterday the FDA sent out letters to 15 CBD companies warning them that they were illegally selling products containing CBD. The 15 companies targeted with the warning letters were posted up on the internet and are located all over the country, with representation in California, Texas, Colorado, Oregon, New York, Florida, North Carolina, Arizona, and Kentucky. The FDA hit those companies for various reasons, which you can and should read up on, especially if you do business at all with CBD. The 15 warned companies have 15 days to respond with details for how they will come into compliance. Rounding out our top news today is Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden, who is doing his best to walk back statements made last week that marijuana is a gateway drug not worth legalizing. Biden has been slammed by his primary opponents over the hugely out-of-touch stance on marijuana and was recently asked by a reporter with the Nevada Independent about his thoughts on the whole matter. Biden nearly fell over backwards, metaphorically speaking, of course, in trying to reposition himself in a less regressive light by first denying that he even said it was a gateway drug before saying that he was in favor of releasing people, quote, wrongfully imprisoned for consuming pot, unquote, and then dancing around a bit with some meaningless political speak. This one's a top story because it's wonderful that dumb positions like Biden's are now being called out by mainstream politics for being dumb. You can jump over to Kyle Yeager's story on this one to read Biden's answer and to listen to the audio. Those are our top stories for today. It's time for Marijuana Today Daily Headlines Blitz. Before we blitz out in headlines, let's quickly thank our sponsor, Greenworks Consults, which is run by longtime listener to the show, Jason, who's an expert when it comes to helping businesses get better at doing business. Jason and his team over at Greenworks Consults, with works spelled W-O-R-X, can help you do everything from implementing new business strategies to setting up ultra-efficient work processes. By tuning up and dialing in your business operations, you'll cut costly waste and realize more money in your bank account at the end of every month. The days of being able to just open up a marijuana storefront and thriving with little effort are just about gone, and it's the businesses that focus on making their operations more efficient now who will be better positioned to grab current and future opportunities. Jason and his team are masters at developing standard operating procedures, systems of metrics, Lean, Sigma 6, and business process management. Swing over to greenworksconsults.com, again with works spelled WORX, and get in touch with the GreenWorks team to get started on your path to better business. That's greenworksconsults.com. All right, time for the Blitz. Las Vegas marijuana superstore Planet 13 just released its latest financial results, and they are looking pretty big. Planet 13, which has an enormous dispensary and mega entertainment complex right in Las Vegas, pulled in $16.7 million in revenue for the third quarter, up over last year's Q3 total of just $4.9 million. The company realized an adjusted EBITDA loss of $3.4 million. I think one of the bigger takeaways on this is the fact that Planet 13 is doing around 9% of all adult use business in the state in their one big giant store. New Cannabis Ventures has more details and numbers. Organigram Holdings just put up its latest Q4 results for the period ending August 31st, booking gross revenue of $19.2 million, up from the same quarter last year where it made $3.1 million. Organigram said its full-year net revenue total was just a touch over $80 million, a 547% jump from 2018's $12.4 million. And while the company did see a net loss of $9.5 million, it was more than half off the previous year's loss of $22.1 million. For more numbers and details on this, you need to head over to Green Market Report. A new estimate out of Florida says that a legal adult use marijuana industry could boost the state's economy by $200 million in direct sales and increased tourism. The estimate was generated by the Financial Impact Estimating Conference, a state agency which is responsible for coming up with financial impact statements for proposed ballot measures. There are 3 marijuana-related ballot measures fighting for approval right now, and the $200 million estimate was created for the leading campaign, Regulate Florida. The Caribbean islands nation of Trinidad and Tobago has 2 proposed bills in Parliament, with the introduction late last week of reform legislation. One bill that would decriminalize the possession of small amounts of marijuana, and another that would make the medical and religious use of cannabis legal. Kyle's got a good story on this one over at Marijuana Moment. We have a quick update up north on the storyline of Canadian marijuana giant Aurora Cannabis and its campaign to convert debt holders to equity holders, as a large $230 million chunk of debt is set to come due in the early spring. Aurora is now reporting that investors holding 99% of that debt have agreed to the conversion terms. This is not a bad story to read if you have any kind of holdings in Canadian stocks, especially Aurora. Iowa Republican Governor Kim Reynolds has not historically been the most progressive person around when it comes to legalizing marijuana, but the Des Moines Register is reporting that she and her Lieutenant Governor Adam Gregg spent about an hour recently visiting an Iowa medical marijuana production facility. Iowa has an extremely limited cannabis program built around low THC processed products, so it's good to see Governor Reynolds get some firsthand experience with the industry. That should only bode well for future progressive reforms. Wrapping up our news day and shortened holiday week has us landing in New Jersey, where activist Ed Fortune, or NJ Weedman as he's more well known, is criticizing the recently announced plans by New Jersey state lawmakers to kick the question of legalizing marijuana to voters next fall rather than passing legislation this year. NJ Weedman said that a ballot measure will open up the state's marijuana industry up to well-funded outside corporations, which will push out local smaller operators, including people who are now working on the illicit market. Those are the headlines and news for the day. I'll be back with you again after the holiday break with another information-packed episode of Marijuana Today Daily. But in the meantime, if you have any stories to share or feedback to give, zip us an email to headlines@mjtodaydaily.com. And while you're clicking around the interwebs, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com to find links to all the news we cover. Thanks to our sponsor, Greenworks Consults, and to our awesome patron listeners for the support that makes this show possible. To join the illustrious ranks of the patron listeners yourself, swing over to our website at mjtodaydaily.com and click on that big blue button at the top of the page that says Become a Patron. I'm your host, Shay Gunther. Thanks for tuning in and starting your day with marijuana today. Today.
One take, Shay. One take.